All right, so I've got a new knife. It's made by Apoc Tools, owned by Iberia. This is the Wallace Bowie, designed by Mike Wallace. I just did a tabletop before this. There will be all the measurements and specs. It's D2 titanium coated. I'm gonna take this out, do some chopping and batoning and stuff, and see how this thing works. All right, stay tuned. Okay, so one of the first things we're gonna try is some feather sticking. So let's get this knife out, see if I can find a good spot to feather stick. Some little curls. Some of that bark off of there. Some pretty nice little curls. Keep making them fall off. There's a little bit of grain in this stick. Let's see. Looks like a knot right there. See how this piece is? That one's got a knot right there too. Let's try this side. So I'm getting some good curls. All right, so you guys can see that it is doing some curls. Let's see, what about just some carving? Carve a point into this. All right, let's do a little notch in here. I think I'm actually gonna do I'll just do it like this. That guard right there is biting in some. I don't know if it would be better without that there. Maybe not with like stabbing stuff, But as far as using the choil, I don't know if I like that guard there or not. It's definitely usable, but I feel like you could get a little bit higher if it wasn't there. Daggone squirrel just jumped up on that that pallet behind the camera. I think he didn't know that I was here. All right, got a little square notch there. Let's go do, actually I might chop this a little bit. Let's say we're chopping a tent stake. See if I can cut all the way through this piece. Yep, it's got some weight. It's got some forward weight to it, so I can definitely do it. I'm gonna come back later and use this to baton with. All right, let's go do some chopping. I just jumped a buck that just ran up to me and I pulled the knife out because I didn't know what it was at first. But I think they were right there and they ran that way. Startled me a little bit. All right, got the Wallace Bowie here. I'm gonna do some chopping. This stuff is about as big around as you can fit your, if you have large hands, your middle finger to your thumb. It's about that big around. Try to start up high. That way I can do a couple different cuts. That's almost all the way through. I got a bead that's connected. Might say this. keep chopping. Freaking mosquitoes. Let's cut this one. See if I can go all the way through this. All right, let's see how far down I can go and still get all the way through. Almost all the way. All right, that's some greenwood chopping. Let's chop this up some. All right, let's do some, let's find something dry to chop. Still pretty sharp, mostly just green stuff. We'll see how it handles batoning and some dry wood. All right, this is some older black gum. I think some of the parts down here were a little rotten, but I think that part was pretty solid. So let's chop this a little bit. It's a little bit softer than it was before. All right, go check out one more piece over here that I chopped with last time. Let's make sure this is filming still. All right, it is. It's a little bit soft on this top layer. I'm not sure if you can see it, but once you get to the red, it's hard again. Like these little red pieces, that's where it's hard. The outside piece is white, it's kind of soft. All right. Let's head over here to the combat knife tree, and I'll smack this tree a couple times, and y'all can watch me pretend to knife fight the tree. All right. So before I get started with this, I want you guys to kind of see. So this is the sheath. As a tech lock, that's about how high the handle is. So if you have it up here, you know, you can kind of get it out. But it probably should be a little lower with like some type of like a 2-inch drop or a 3-inch drop. But it will come out. This is usable, but some type of drop loop for this would probably be a little bit easier to get the knife out. All right, see the tip, tapers down to the tip. Let's do some stabbing. Now remember this guard that I was talking about earlier, kind of getting in the way with the choil, although it's usable, but you could get up a little higher if that guard wasn't there. But stabbing, it's very comfortable. Adds a little bit more surface there for when you're stabbing. Let's do some light tip testing. Okay, so see if I can get this to zoom in. So if you guys can see that, there was a little bit of a bend in the tip doing the stabbing and you know, side to side motion in the tree. I don't recommend prying with knives, but with this like fighting design, it's a full flat and it does taper to the tip. So the tip is thinner. So you just need to be aware of that. You know, if you're going to be doing like abusive stuff or stabbing into stuff with the tip. But there was a slight bend in there a minute ago. Okay, well, I just snapped off the tip, and I didn't do that on purpose with my left hand, but I was trying to pull it out, and I just did break the tip off. That was not intentional. So, yeah, we'll just continue the review, and I'll talk about it later. Whatever that tip is. Is that it? All right. Let's do one throw while we're over here. See if I can make it stick once with the broken tip. Almost. Gotta throw it a little bit harder. There we go. All right, let's go do some batoning. All right, I soaked my baton a little bit for about 30 minutes, make it a little bit heavier. It still is kind of light compared to when the wood was green. If you soak this overnight, it would definitely be a little bit more useful. All right, let's try batoning these. Let's see which one do I want to go at. This piece of wood, I don't think is batonable. I'm gonna try to take the, I think I'm gonna take this out and use a different log. This is some type of a, not sure what this is, but it is not wanting to split. There we go. I don't know what that is, but daggone if this is not hard. Let's try this piece of white oak here. I think we're gonna have a lot better results with this. Line it up with the lines that's got already in there. All right, go ahead and split these two up. This piece of wood is not perfectly straight. It does have some knots in there. This one looks a little bit straighter, but the grain pattern is kind of twisted. save that for the wood pile. Should we try this again? I don't know. Stuff is I don't know if I want to put the knife back into that. It's a pretty terrible log. I think it's heavy. It's so heavy still. Let's cut this in half. See how that works across the tiny. All right, so I'm gonna go grab a couple pieces of paper and I'm gonna see if this thing still cuts paper. All right, got some paper here. This paper is a little thinner than some of the paper I've used before. It's whatever I took out of my wife's copier. So it's a little lighter, so it's kind of it's easier to tear than some of the stuff I've used in the past. All right, let's see if this cuts after that. All right, let's start over here. Must be a burr right there. That was a decent cut. Let's try this last one. That was good. That ripped a little bit. So it's cutting still cutting paper. It's ripping a little bit, but for the most part, it's doing a pretty good job. All right, in conclusion, with the Wallace Bowie hard use review, and the sweat is getting in my eyes. All right, so I want to talk about what I do like and then what I don't like. All right, the sheath is nice. The Kydex looks nice. Has lashing points, a drain hole, nice rivets. I would like to see a little bit more retention right here. I know I guess they wanted to open, but you do have to make sure that the blade can't fall out. Like this way, it's not coming out, but this way, one little bump, and the knife's out. So, usually you're not carrying it, vertical like that. But if you are going to carry it like this or on a pack like that, I recommend getting some type of shot cord and going across here to keep that in. So I think it has retention, but I think it does need a little bit tighter retention. The tech lock, I don't like tech locks. That's just me personally. With the rod height, to put this the knife almost under my armpit, I think with a knife this size, it needs to have a drop. So you probably need to have like a harder, stiff belt loop that's about right where my fingertip is, and maybe even maybe even do a leg strap. But the Kydex looks nice. I just would make the retention tighter. Tight enough where you can push your thumb in the back to snap it out. So you get a good positive snap. And it does snap in. But it just the weight of the knife will take it out of the Kydex. All right, let's see. Next thing, I was told about this initially to watch the hardware, because somebody else has had a problem with losing a screw. The hardware, it's like a tube, and then the malin that threads into it, and the tube goes most of the way through but kind of stops. I'll try to include a picture. But the other end, the small malin, there you only have, I think I turned it like maybe 3 or 4 rotations, and that was it, like it was loose. So it needs more than, you know, like it needs more than that much threads into the tube. It needs to have like probably almost like half of the length. Like if this is like an inch, it needs to be like halfway into it. So it takes more than a couple turns. It should take more than 3 or 4 turns of the hardware coming loose to come out. So it is a good idea to Loctite that, but I think the male end is too short. It needs to be probably 1/4 of an inch longer to be secure and get enough threads on there to get enough strength. Also, when I tried to tighten it, these little Torx bits, they're small. The steel is not as nice, and they rounded off when I added Loctite to this and I was tightening it. I rounded off all the hardware. So the heavier Allen wrench hardware is going to be better for, you know, tightening the scales, taking them on and off. I wouldn't use that little star pattern. It's just there's not enough material there to put torque on it tight enough where you need to like get the handle tight. So when I was doing some of the cutting on the table, the handle was loose out of the box. It was like snapping back and forth. So that part kind of sucks. There's something there. I don't know if you can see it. There's like a little defect in the metal or something. I'm not really sure what that is. Like a little pocket. That's not uncommon for stuff. The D2, I feel like it still feels sharp. I could probably still shave some of this. Yeah, so after I sharpened it, that focus, and I chopped all that hardwood and batoned, the D2 is still shaving sharp. So you can hear it, both sides, still sharp. So the D2 is still sharp. It was sharp, it cut well, the weight of the blade cut well, and that tip just got really thin towards the tip. Anything like hard use, you just need to try to preserve as much material as you can on the tip. So I wasn't trying to break that. I wasn't like, you know, doing like a stab and like trying to bend it to a 45. I was just stabbing it and I was trying to like pull it back out. And I guess when I did, I binded it and I snapped the tip off. So that sucks. That I did not mean to do that. So the handle. So my hands have, it's been a couple minutes since I've been cutting. But right here, you can see how there's like a sharp edge that runs up there. That really does need to be rounded off. That whole sharp edge down the line, and even on the back, that sharp edge needs to be rounded off. It's just it really was uncomfortable in my hands, and I'm not trying to be, you know, like, hey, my knife is better, my handle is more comfortable. It really was hard on my hands. That sharp edge needs to go away. Get rid of that sharp edge, and the handle is going to be more comfortable. I think this pommel needs to be a little bit, maybe a little bit bigger, but it did a pretty good job. If it wasn't sharp there, I feel like it would be even better. And let's see, I don't know if you can see it. Let's see. I did hit on the scale some. The scales set in place pretty good. They did move some when I was hitting the baton, trying to get it out of that log, and I don't recommend doing that. So I don't recommend hitting your baton onto the handle, but I got the knife stuck. I don't know what kind of piece of wood that was, but it was heavy and it was dense and it did not want to split. So I had to retreat. But overall, so 114 bucks. It's a good sized blade. The steel is sharp. I don't know what the rock wheel is on this. I don't know if it's like 58 or 60 or 62. I don't know what the D2 is heat treated to, or how they temper it. I don't know any of that, what they do with this. But on a heavy duty knife, I would suggest going with a thicker tip. Does not do as much tapering. And if you do taper, just watch the tip. It needs as much material back there as you can get. And you know, it's a cool knife. The handle's not bad, you know, holding it like this, like moving it around. Like if you weren't doing like bushcrafting, like wood splitting stuff, you know, you probably wouldn't have had this problem with the tip. If you're just thinking of like a zombie apocalypse stabber, you know, you're probably going to be fine. But you know, I didn't really do the balance test. About there. Now in the handle, this one. All right, so it's about right there. So when I took the scales off, there's no skeletonization. It's just the 3 holes. It's a full tang, no cutouts. All right, so there's my review of this Wallace Bowie. It's my first experience with Apoc Tools knives. Kind of mad I broke the tip. Seems like the coating held up all right. I can see where it started wearing off. Batoning does a lot of like, it really does. Batoning does wear a lot of material off really fast, even more than chopping, especially, you know, than chopping green wood, softer than dried old hardwood. But the edge did hold up pretty nice. Still sharp. I can still shave with it. I think there must be a burr in there somewhere where I was hanging up on the paper. But that paper, it's very, very light and tears easy. So I need to tell my wife to get some better copy paper. All right, well, thanks for checking it out. And there you go. This is my use video, hard use of the Apoc Tools Wallace Bowie. Later.